Okay, so we're checking out your code. First thing I like to do is always just go ahead and run the code. So start debugging and see what happens. Obviously in this case there were build errors, so I'm just going to hit no there. And right down here it has a little description saying expected class, delegate, enum, interface, or structure. Okay, so that's not super clear, and there's probably a lot of different things that could be. It tells you the line where it's located, and if you double click on this, it'll take you right to where the code is getting hung up at. Alright, and usually that's a good place to start. The answer might not actually be right here in this exact line, or it might not even be in this exact section, but you can kind of see this is just saying, here's where the code is no longer sure what to do at this point. All right, so something has gone wrong here. In this case, we see that the code is getting hung up right at the start of this method. Okay, so it's not sure how to run this method. Doesn't know what it's doing there. It just can't run it. All right. So let's take a look at the method first. Okay. Because it's getting hung up at the beginning of the method, probably none of this under here really matters at the moment, because it hasn't even gotten this far. Okay, if there are any errors in here, the program doesn't even know because it just got to here and stopped. Okay, so first things first, we need to get it to actually be able to try to run the method. So why isn't it running it? What we can look at is we can see that this is the last code in the whole program here. Okay, and if we look at these curly braces, and this is why it's super crazy important to lay out your curly braces and your entire code in a way that makes sense. All right, and in a way that where you can easily see the beginning and end of pieces of your code. Alright, so you'll always want to indent and space things out in a way that makes it very visually easy for you to see exactly where something starts and exactly where it ends. So in this case, what you would want is something like, here's this hey, starting a method line, and then you'd want to bring this curly brace out just one tab past that. Hi, it's a method, or you could even put it here, really, for the start of a method. All right, so whoops, there we go. Let's not delete stuff. All right, so it's right there, and it's saying, hey, here's a method, and it starts now. Here's the opening curly brace, and then you'll want to just move things kind of in line, really, so that it's really easy to see where things are starting. Okay, so this curly brace, it's like, hey, something's starting, here's this if statement, something else is starting now. So let's put that right there where we can see it really easy, and then just bring this and just tab it out at 1. Okay, and then hey, well this part is over now, so we'll want to move this right there, and in this way it becomes really easy to see exactly where this starts and ends, because it's like, hey, start, end, it's all in the same line, and there's nothing else going on in between. It's all over here, right? And so that way it's very apparent, start and end. Okay, and this one's started, but if we go on down, we don't see the ending yet. All right, so once we end something, we can just keep everything on that same line, so it's like, here's this, start something, and then indent over, and then once it ends, come back to this line we were using in the first place. Alright, so here's something new. Okay, looks good. We might even want to keep this on the same line, or if it's too crazy long and you just want it on separate lines, just make sure that you kind of keep these things sort of together. Alright, so it's really obvious that those are kind of one line, one sort of statement. And so yeah, we'll move this guy over, saying, hey, you know, something is starting. And then whatever comes after that is going to be moved over a little bit, so that we can clearly see when it ends right here. We can just follow down to, oh, there's the end. Alright, so, you know, let's just keep going in this way till we get to the end of this method. Alright. Looks good. We'll just bring this up. Bring that up. Bring this up. Okay, so here's the start of that, and there's the end. Great. But, you know, it may be a little hard to see in this particular case, but if we see the whole thing all at once, we've got, you know, start and end, start and end, start and end, and of course the whole method has a start and an end, so we got a start. Oh my goodness, you know, there's nothing at the bottom here. There's no ending. So we have start, all this stuff, and nothing to tell the program, hey, you know, this method is now over. So, you know, once we have laid things out properly, it becomes pretty clear when we've kind of forgotten something. So obviously there needs to be an ending curly brace right there. Alright, so now we can clearly see, here's the start of this, here's the end, you know, here's everything in between. Very clean and very easy to read. Okay, so let's try it again, see if it works. Nope, same thing, right? So, you know, why is that? And you might notice that this little final curly brace here is just saying, hey, the method is over. But if you look at the top of the program, at the beginning we say, you know, hey, it's a program. It's going to start right now. Here's the opening curly brace. So we, you know, I mean, you can imagine there must be an ending curly brace to the program itself, okay? This one we just put here at the end is an ending curly brace for our method, not for the program. The ending curly brace for the program is actually sitting right up here, okay? So obviously that's a problem because the code is going through the whole program, and then it gets to here and it's like, oh, program's done. Good, great. What is all this? I don't know. And it gets stuck. Because your code already is saying, hey, the program's over, but then you've got this down here going on. Alright? So again, you know, that's just a case of some crazy curly braces, you know, getting in the way of readability. Alright? So, you know, you just want to just move things back, move them in line, so that you can just see stuff better and see what's going on. Just moving things. And really, you know, ideally, you'll want to go through all of your code and do this, okay? Because otherwise, you're gonna have some problems later on down the road. When you're looking for these kind of mistakes, it's gonna be very difficult to find them, okay? If you don't make sure that you have everything laid out really nicely. So, I'd say, you know, take the time to do this kind of stuff now, rather than trying to search for it later when the code gets a lot more complicated. All right. Okay, so we're just laying these out. You know, just wherever you see a starting curly brace, you know, there's going to be an indent after that. All right. And then wherever you see an ending curly brace, and you're going to go back a bit. All right. So, okay, we've got this going on, and then we have 1, 2, 3, kind of all in this same line right here. So, it's not entirely clear if, you know, this is too far back, this whole for each loop right here, or if there's just too many curly braces going on right there, or what the case is, okay? So because the code actually runs up till here, I'm guessing the case is that just the for each loop is too far back. Alright, and we just need to just move all of this stuff forward. Alright? Because ideally, things should be all spaced out. Just like that, okay? All of the curly braces should have their own indent, alright? And you'll just need to go through and make sure that things are matching the indents and are going where they need to go, alright? Oops, got a little carried away there. Here we go. So it really should look something like that, okay? And I'm not going to go through and do the whole thing right now, of course. You know, that'll be up to you to reorganize and get that going. So what we need to know is where, you know, this method, where does this method end? Which curly brace in this myriad of curly braces is the end of this method up here, so that we know where to place our next method, you know, in the correct line here, okay? So we've got a whole bunch of stuff going on, bunch of stuff. Let's see where this method begins. Okay, so private void test for collisions, I believe, is the method that we're working with at the end here, right? So we'll just need to respace this method, okay, to really understand where the method actually ends and where we should put our next method, alright? So we've got the start of the method here, some things going on. Here's the start of an if statement, here's the end, here's the start of a for each, and you know, here's the start of another if statement, and there's the start of another if statement, and then, okay, so we've got one curly brace, which is the end of this, one curly brace here, which if we go and look up is the end of this, alright? Got a curly brace here, which if we look up is going to be the end of that, alright? And we've got a curly brace right here, and if we take that on up, I'm just using my cursor now so that I can make sure that I'm looking in the right spot. We can see that's the end of this curly brace, which is the curly brace that starts this method, okay? So our next method is going to go after that closing curly brace right there, okay? So we can just make some space for it. We know that that's where it goes. So we'll just grab it from right down here, because again, it's outside of our code right now. We don't want that. So just grab that. I'm just going to go ahead and go Control Copy, Control C for copy, alright? And just delete that for now. And then I'm just going to Control V, paste, right there. And of course my spacing is still crazy. Just make sure that you have everything in line the way you want it to be. Because it was a little further down than it needed to be, we didn't quite space it right when it was down there. So now that we know where the spacing needs to be, we need to make sure that it's in line the way it needs to be so that we can see it easily later on. You get the idea. space all that good stuff out. Okay, so now we've got this nice clean method, and it's inside our code. Hooray! So let's go ahead and try this again. Build errors. All right, let's take a look. So first thing it's saying is, hey, where is the semicolon? And it's going to tell you exactly where it wants to see a semicolon, right here, where it says fire projectile. Right, it's a call to a method, so stick it right there, semicolon. And now we have all kinds of crazy things happening, right? So let's take a look. Alright, type burger attack Shane arg.game1 already defines a member called fire projectile test with the same parameter types. Okay, so that kind of sounds like, and it's telling you the same thing here. The call is ambiguous between the following methods or properties: fire projectile test and fire projectile test, right? And what that sounds like is maybe two instances of this whole fire projectile test thing happening somewhere in your code. Alright, so let's take a look. Fire projectile test, right? And then let's look up a little bit. Alright, so here we're making a call to fire projectile test in our update method. And right here underneath our update method, hey, private void fire projectile test, and it's empty. So you have two methods called fire projectile test, and obviously, this one is just kind of where it looks like you started typing it there and wound up typing it at the bottom instead, and it just got left over. Okay, just forgot to delete that. So make sure you get rid of that, alright? Because you can't have two of the same method. That's going to be really confusing. And we'll just try debugging it again, and it's, nope, build errors. Alright, so let's just hit no. So there are quite a few different build errors going on down here. There's still 5 build errors down there. One that's pretty easy to fix is this one right here, where it's looking for a definition of the word right with an E, and it's located right here. If you double click it, it'll take you right to it. Pad o1.triggers.right. So obviously you'll just want to take that E out of there, and that's going to get rid of one error at least. That's a start. Let's go ahead and grab this one, which also looks like just a typo. Okay. Saying there's no definition for up in all capitals. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Keys.up doesn't exist, but keys.up with capital U and a lowercase p does. Alright, so we just want to make that letter P lowercase so the code can understand. Alright, that's also saying to us twice the name fire projectile does not exist in the current context. So let's look at that. Alright, so we've got this call to the fire projectile method. Alright, and let's take a look and find fire projectile. Okay, so I do not see a fire projectile method. Let's just look up here in this little box. This lists all of the methods that we have and other good fun stuff. The methods are these little pink box guys here, alright? So, move sprites, move user-controlled sprites, test for collisions, unload content, update, obviously fire projectiles. It's going to be, this is all in alphabetical order, so it should be right here, fire projectile, but now it may just be that you haven't gotten this far in the code yet to put in the fire projectile method, but right now it doesn't exist. So I would start by getting your fire projectile method in there and then seeing how you're doing after that. Alright? Happy coding!